Hello, this is the trace table, the hand trace table part 2. I want to focus on, let me rephrase this, this is part of the last series that you just did, and we're going to do a hand tracing table of the nested loops with this thing, right? So, for instance, where am I going with this? Bear with me for the time being with this, is that let's say you have an Excel document. Let me just fire up an Excel document. Everybody know what an Excel document is, right? Microsoft Excel. This is a way how we can actually look at data and use data. Look at it kind of like a two-dimensional data types with it. And if you recall, if you ever had need for data structure, this is what you're going to get into. If I take a look at this list, if there's just a list like grocery list, shopping list, Christmas list, birthday list, you have a list. That's a one-dimensional array, right? Every one of these things, there's an item that goes all the way down from 1 to whatever, infinity loop, honeydew list, whatever, all right? However, when you have a spreadsheet, each one of these cells has an address. If you notice, I clicked on any one of these cells, it gives an address with a column and number, right? So this becomes what's called a two-dimensional array, two-dimensional data structure. You're going to think about the same. So when we get into, and where am I going with this, is that when you can actually set up an array in a data type that allows you to see things that you can write to and read to on a data structure on a two-dimensional arrays with it. So take for example this algorithm I have right here. All right, that you want to print the header, table header, easy enough, right? See out. You can give this is your table header right here. Now to print the rows going from left to right, and what it actually takes place inside of this right here. Okay, so you're going to look at for row from X to 10, right? And to print the table row and to print the new line that comes down to the next line. Well, let's take a look at this thing. So how do you print a table row? You need to print value for each of the exponent in this case, correct? So in essence, if you take a look at this loop that we will look at, so it's kind of like a for loop in from basically 1 to 4. Okay, so if you look at this n, this exponent of 1 square cubed to the 4th, all right, and you can actually go in, technically you would actually print what? X raised to, I can't do a caret on this notepad, so I'm going to have to do one of those caret things, shift 6 and raised to the n. Okay, so this is basically the algorithm what you're looking at right now. Now, when you come over here, I want to talk to you about the nesting of the for loop, right? Nesting of the for loop. If you remember the syntax of the for loop's what? For, you're going to initialize, right? Semicolon, you're going to do your test expression here. And then you're going to do update here, right? And then whatever happens, there are statements that actually takes place in this thing. Now when you focus on this in a second here, so in between here you have statements. And another statement if you want to, okay, so on and so on, right? So this is what we're going to look at this. This is what, we're going to go in here, we're going to look at this, and we're going to nest in, anytime when you have a two-dimensional arrays, this is very similar to a two-dimensional array data structure that you have right here. If you think about this in here, when you nest in another loop in this thing, you gotta nest in another loop. And then with two-dimensional array, you gotta nest in another loop in this thing. So what are we talking about? We're talking about to bring in another loop with this thing. But let's look at this for a moment before we get too far with this thing. I have let me fire up my paint. Okay, let's take a look at the structure right here before we get too far with this over here. So this is I'm going to draw the demo for you on this particular table that you have right here. This is what you're looking at, is this table right here, and I want to show you what is taking place in this table right now. How do I, what is the flow of this right now? Okay, so if you take a look at, let me get my screens adjusted here, and we start out with, let's say x is equal to, all right, so x is equal to 1. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a square box around that. Coming down here, I'm going to test to see if x is equal to, less than or equal to 10. This is my test expression with this. Okay, now if this takes a path of true, okay, if it takes a path of true, it's going to go this direction. So I'm going to say true, and if it's false, okay, it's going to all exit out. Okay, if it's false, right? So if you take a look at it, if it's true, the loop is nested in the outer loop of the same, right? Let's say, I don't know, let's say your n now becomes 1. Okay, we're going to look, I'm going to draw this right here for us to take a look at this in a second right now. Now, the loop is a nested loop. This is a nested loop takes place. Okay, so I want to draw this out, the flow chart, and then I'm going to code this thing so you can see what I'm talking about. How do we code this thing right now with it? This is your nested loop right now. Now, coming down here, you're going to test if n is less than or equal to 4, because you want this to only go up, look, go up to 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I need to do a test, my triangle, it's my test expression with this thing. If that's true, okay, what do I do? If that's true, I want to print x to the n power, correct? Now after I do that, I need to increment my n as well. Okay? I do that until when? Until my expression over here is becoming equal or exceed, basically, until this expression falls out to be false with it. Now when that turns out to be false, what happened? I print a new line. Okay. And this. Okay. By the way, this isn't stop here. This is something else with it when this thing is false, right? It does not connect to this thing. And what else? I need to increment my x. Okay. When this happens, what happens? This needs to come over here, all the way to here, and all the way to this part. How do I come around here? Let's say do this, and I need to test this x right here. Okay? So this test is, again, remember now, x starts out up here as what? This is a 1. Okay, this is a 1. So if x is 1 in this thing. Okay? Alright.